All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about upgrading the single most important piece of tech you own. And nope, it's not your phone. It's your brain.
I mean, you know that feeling, don't you? Where your whole system just feels laggy. It crashes at the absolute worst moments, and you just can't seem to get it to do what you want it to do. But here's the thing. What if I told you this isn't some kind of user error? It's not your fault. It's just your system is long overdue for an update.
Like you get that spinning beach ball of doom, where your mind just gets stuck buffering on one single worry and it can't process anything else? That's a classic bug.
Or, hey, what about this one? You click to open an important task, but whoops, the system decides to open up social media for like 3 hours instead. Look, that's not you being lazy, that's a glitch in your action protocol. And then, of course, there's the brain fog. That feeling where everything just feels so slow, so unresponsive. You know the information is in there somewhere, but the system just can't seem to find the file. So what's the end result of all these bugs and glitches? It's those wasted evenings, right? That really familiar state where you're way too drained to do anything productive, but you're also somehow too wired to actually rest. And this gets us right to the core of the problem. Yeah, this quote just hits the nail on the head. We call it rest, but it's really just anesthesia for the brain. Think about it. That time you spend doom scrolling or binge watching some show you won't even remember tomorrow, that's not recharging your battery. Not at all. It's just numbing the system. It's silencing the error messages without actually fixing any of the underlying code.
Okay, so let's start the upgrade process. First up is the most foundational part. We are installing a brand new operating system for your mind. This one is designed from the ground up for stability and strength.
And the very first thing we're doing, we are uninstalling our reliance on motivation. Seriously, think of motivation as that flaky friend who's a blast at a party but is nowhere to be found when you need help moving furniture. Discipline, on the other hand, that's the bedrock of our new OS. It's not sexy, it's not flashy, it's just the reliable system that executes commands whether you feel like it or not. It just works. Okay, so here's one of the first apps for this new OS. It's a tool for emotional control. Instead of running on some automatic reactive script, you install a pause. Look at how it works. A trigger happens, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic, you get a stressful email. Now, instead of instantly reacting, you just hit pause for 5 seconds. That's it. And in that tiny little space, you get to observe, and then you choose how to respond. That pause, that's your new firewall. It stops the emotional malware before it can hijack your whole system. All right, the final piece of this Mindset OS is a huge reframe. Most of us see a difficult project or a tough conversation as a problem, right? Like it's some kind of cosmic injustice. But with this upgrade, you start seeing them as reps at your own personal mental gym. Every single challenge is a workout. A project that fails isn't some catastrophe. It's a masterclass in what not to do next time. And that simple shift, it turns every obstacle from a source of stress into a source of strength. Okay, you with me? Let's move on to the second module. Now that the Core OS is stable, it's time to install the apps. The practical, everyday tools that are going to translate all this thinking into actual action. First up, this is your anti-procrastination launch sequence. The very moment you feel yourself hesitating on something you know you should be doing, you start a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you hit 1, you have to physically move. This isn't about thinking, it's about overriding the system's default setting, which is to get stuck. What you're actually doing here scientifically is you're interrupting that old habit loop of hesitation, and you're firing up a totally different part of your brain, the part that acts. It's like you're hijacking the excuses and just forcing movement before your brain can talk you out of it. It's so simple, but it's powerful. Next up, a tool for laser focus. You know how this works, right? If you give yourself a whole day to do a task, it's going to take the whole day. But if you give yourself just a 30-minute timer, all of a sudden, you're a productivity machine. This simple trick creates this artificial urgency. That ticking clock forces your brain to drop everything that's not essential and just execute. You can think of it like a high-intensity interval training sprint, but for your focus. Okay, this next one is absolutely crucial for learning anything. We have to stop just passively pouring information in. Real, true learning happens when you force your brain to pull that information back out. So after you read a chapter in a book, close it, get a blank page, and just write down everything you can possibly remember. It's going to be a struggle, it's supposed to be, but that struggle is what forges strong memories. It's literally the neurological equivalent of lifting weights. No struggle, no strength. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most critical module. Look, a high-performance system is totally useless if it's always running on 2% battery. So this part is all about the science of a true system shutdown and recharge.
And let's be really clear here. Most of what we call rest is actually fake rest. It's just mental anesthesia. Real rest, that's an active process. It reminds me of that old story about the two woodcutters. The young guy works nonstop, never takes a break. The old one takes lots of breaks. But at the end of the day, the old woodcutter has cut way more wood. Why? Because he was using his breaks to sharpen his axe. Your phone, it isn't sharpening your axe. It's making it duller.
All right, now here's a really surprising and super practical piece of data for your recovery protocol. Scientists have found that the ideal room temperature for deep, restorative sleep is somewhere between 16 and 18 degrees Celsius. That's about 60 to 65 Fahrenheit. See, your body actually needs to drop its core temperature to kick off deep sleep. So having a cool room it supercharges that whole process.
And of course, that's just one part of a bigger system. To really execute this recovery protocol, you basically need these four things. 1, cave-like darkness. This maximizes your melatonin production. 2, no blue light from screens for at least an hour before bed. That light literally tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime. 3, that cool room temperature we just talked about. And finally, 4, consistency. Going to bed and waking up around the same time, even on the weekends, that stabilizes your internal clock. It's a game changer.
So, let's imagine you've done it. You've installed the new Mindset OS, you're running the action toolkit, and you're executing the recovery protocol every night. So what's the result? What does this fully upgraded system actually feel like to use?
And this might be the most important takeaway of this whole thing. The ultimate goal of this entire upgrade isn't to become some frantic, hyper-productive machine. It's to become calm. It's that quiet confidence that comes from a system that is stable, powerful, and in your control. While everyone else is running around with a million frantic processes open, you're operating with a quiet, focused efficiency. Chaos becomes the test, and your calmness, that's the sign you've passed.
So let's just recap that 3-step installation one last time. Step 1, install the Mindset OS. That's the one built on discipline, not motivation. Step 2, run the action toolkit with awesome tools like the 5-second rule. And step 3, execute the recovery protocol, prioritizing true restorative rest.
Look, this isn't about trying to become a different person. It's about finally running the software you were always meant to have. An operating system designed not for stress and distraction, but for strength, focus, and calm. The patch has been downloaded. It's ready to go. The only question left is, are you ready to click install?